This gun is absolute ass against buildings. Of the 216 HP this sentry has, it will do 18 damage. And worse, Wrangler drops that to just 5 damage. Meanwhile, the wrench heals 100 each hit. So nothing's happening if you're trying to do this alone. But what if there were 50 soldiers? Could 50 of them with only cow manglers hack it against engineers with wranglers and wrenches only? No, not even close, actually. On Upward, they only made it 85% of the way through to the first point. They never capped once. The problem was that after this hill, there's too many sentries to handle at once. Before that point, the space is segmented into small, self-contained chunks, where they'd only be dealing with 1 to 2 sentries at most at a time. They could handle the sentry behind spawn, for example, or the spot next to the mini health pack, or sentries around the rock. But as soon as you get over the hill, for them to take any more ground, they need to address the entire ditch at this point, plus the hill behind it, plus the side path, plus the sniper deck. That is just too many sentries for the gang to simultaneously destroy. There's about 30 sentries just in this area. What also didn't help was their lack of focus. Team Soldier were pretty scatterbrained about what to shoot, and if they had a commander to pool all their damage into one sentry at a time, they probably could have gone a bit further. They could have pushed through the right flank and maybe win, for example. So Upward isn't doable, but is there maybe a map the soldiers would do better on? We tried Swiftwater, and this was still too much for them. They could break the balcony sentry, but beyond that, they ran into the same issue again. The team's focus was split between the big house, the side house, and sentries in the trench, each third of the team being too weak to achieve their goals, ending in nothing happening. The furthest the soldiers got was this fence. Okay, so 50 Mangler soldiers just can't push, but can the engineers? We set 50 engineers free into CP steel, and round 1, the engineers went for B. This turned out to be a mistake because you can't cap B without A. And in this game state, the only way into E is through this path next to spawn. This was huge for the soldiers, since the way B spawn is structured gives them a great view into that path without being exposed at all, so they could very safely watch over it. The opposite side is also very comfy for the soldiers to hold, so the Engies get shot from both sides here. The Engineer Military Industrial Complex was all in on B for some reason, so they spent 6 minutes pushing this. They did eventually break through into E, but by then, there was only 40 seconds left on the clock, which wasn't enough to accomplish anything, and they lost here. But now with combat experience, could they do it if they got a second try? This time, the soldiers, seeing how close the engineers got to E last time, invested more into defending B, which makes sense. You wouldn't want them to cap E and win, right? This turned out to be a massive mistake because the engineers noticed how quiet Point 8 was and charged in. They immediately established sentries on the wall, and that snowballed into the entire blue team flooding in and taking the points. Uh-oh. Point B, unsurprisingly, was taken soon after, and now the question is, can the engineers break into C? This doesn't look good for them, because every option they have are different flavors of small, choky doors that a few soldiers could easily hold. How do they win this? The answer was chip damage. Without healing besides health packs, the soldiers died of 1,000 little cuts. This is also where the mini sentry proved to be very useful. It's cheap and soaks up tons of damage and attention, helping push the front line while beefier level 3s slowly advance to secure the new space. The chip damage and aggressive mini sentries was key for the engineers, and after 3.5 minutes, they had C. From here, the soldiers have basically already lost. D is a lost cause because the soldiers don't have the positioning to keep the lobby under control. And through point D, soldiers trying to hold E get flanked by sentry guns and die. I also ran a few other dumb matchups. 50 pyros who can only air blast versus the direct hits. What happens? Surely with 50 pyros, one of them would hit the reflect, right? Pyros can also air blast faster than soldiers can walk, so the pyros could throw everyone off the point and win. So do they win? The games were actually quite close, but pyros lost even if we swapped sides. In practice, pushing everyone away was hard because there's props everywhere that get in the way, so stopping soldiers from touching the point wasn't possible. Knowing that pyros can't shoot fire created a meta strat where soldiers just do nothing if they're being looked at. Then their teammates would shoot the pyro in the back. Seeing how strong that was, we tried Sawmill to see if things would go differently, since it gave pyros a way to proactively kill soldiers. The result was pyros winning the first round, then after swapping sides, winning the second round too. The saws actually made a difference. Before, soldiers had no pressure to shoot. They could hold forever with nothing the pyro can do. But now, pyros have more leverage, whether that's straight up killing them, or the threat of being thrown into a saw, putting pressure on the soldier to mess up, and they shoot a easy to reflect rocket. Shotgun heavies versus scattergun scouts. The heavies technically have an advantage, since they only need 2 shots, while scouts need 3, but the match ended poorly for them. They only ever got a minute. While you might expect their big problem to be poor aim, it actually seems to be sustain. The first fight of the round was won by the heavies both times. Scouts had to come back to slowly whittle the heavies down and take the point to win. So if the heavies aren't having trouble with their aim and hitting their shots, then maybe the problem is with their move speed. Scouts can get way more out of health packs and resupply than heavies, so they won off of having effectively more health than the heavies. Quickies versus stickies could easily be a CIA torture routine, and it's because of this one stat: destroy enemy sticky bombs. It's the definition of insanity trying to use stickies. You just can't, yet you keep trying. There's a constant barrage of quickies, making 7 out of your 8 stickies vaporize before you're even close to detonating it. And on top of this, the quickies still do damage, so Team Quickies mindlessly spam the point, and everything Team Stickies could do is automatically countered. They can't cap the point because they'll die, and they can't fight back because their stickies get eaten. What can they do? Team Stickies only managed a minute off the clock on both rounds. Equalizer versus Escape Plan could probably go either way. The Equalizer deals more damage, but the Escape Plan could make that meaningless by juking with the speed boost. What won though was the Equalizer, and it makes sense. The Equalizer has a chance to one-shot an Escape Plan user, while the Escape Plan will always take at least 2 hits to kill. Starting at 70 HP, which is 2 hits from an Escape Plan, the Equalizer either kills in 2 normal hits or 1 shots with a random crit. On the other hand, Escape Plan will only ever crit for 195, which is 5 off from a full health soldier, and will always need the second hit. So over time, the Equalizer needs a bit less on average to kill, taking a narrow victory. Team Escape Plan were down to 25 seconds. A war between the soldier banners. First, the buff banner loses to everyone. It's either at a passive healing or max health disadvantage, and even if you do get to blow the horn, the mini crits don't really do much. But interestingly, the battalions ended up beating the conch. The 20 extra max health doesn't sound like it's particularly better than passive healing, but when you throw in the black box, it makes sense how the extra max health can tip the scales. The last two battles we did were stock versus original and stock versus Iron Bomber. There are two sets of really similar weapons, so which one's better? I don't know. Both of these matchups had the same team win despite swapping sides, so it's a stalemate. Red team won with both the stock and original on Suijin. And red team also won on both stock and Iron Bomber on Viaduct. So you're on your own with this one.